Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal. Throw down $5 on a tournament game, and guess what? You get $200 in free plays if you're a new customer. DraftKings Sportsbook at code word PHNX. All right, well, where to start here, Saul? Arizona escapes in overtime. This was a game that there were multiple times when I thought Arizona was dead to rights, and we were talking about it, and it's like, all right, we went from up 9 to down 5, and Ben Mathurin hit again, and Ben Mathurin showed why he's going to go down in U of A lore as one of the best players to ever come through.
Absolutely. One of the things that's so great about this team is their resiliency. Their resiliency tonight was on a whole nother level. TCU, give them credit. They fought hard, and I had said it when I saw them play the other night against Seton Hall that this was not going to be an easy out. And damn, it was not an easy out. Props to them, but probably one of the funnest games I've ever been a part of.
And you and I were actually debating, all right, who's the player of the game right here, this or that. Ben Mathurin's the easy call, but you know what? This one to me was really a two-person race here. And that Christian Koloko was the one that kept Arizona in the first half. You look at his final stat line right here, and Koloko finished with, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. Then you got Bennedict Mathurin, 30 points, made almost everything. You talk about the Kobe Bryant. You talk about the closer. He was that guy, but these are your two best players on the team, and they showed that in spades throughout this game, Saul.
Man, Arizona wasn't sharp. Outside of those two, Arizona wasn't sharp. But, again, it doesn't matter. It's survive and advance at this point. Guys, this is the first Sweet 16 appearance for this team in 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. 2017 was the last time.
2016, yeah.
17.
With the
17. Right. Yeah, it was 2017. With the failure against Xavier in San Jose, but we're back. Sweet 16. This is where this team needs to be. They got Houston coming up. Right. They have a fantastic opportunity to get to the Final Four. Back to this game. There's 2 key points in this game that I thought were just absolutely massive, and both of them were Ben Mathurin related. First, you got to go back to the dunk. That dunk is on the same level as Derek Williams against Duke, the cock-back, tip-back dunk, and all the other great dunks in U of A history. I think this is put it in the Louvre, baby. Right. You got to put it in the Louvre. It's already in the Louvre, baby. It's a work of art. And to do it against Eddie Lampkin, too, who all game long, no matter who was scoring for TCU, he was flailing and getting the crowd pumped up. And I told you the other night, I felt a dunk coming on. I was a day too soon. Right. Tonight we got it.
You know what? It's a day too soon, but you know what? It's never too late right there. I'm going to go with another one. You correctly mentioned Ben Mathurin. When Arizona was down 3, and we've talked about this all year.
This is the second one. Yep.
Yeah, Dalen Terry's 3 right there.
Oh, yeah.
When it was 67 to 70, and Dalen Terry ties that game up right there. It was like, wow. Whew. All right, that gets us back. That gets Arizona back within striking distance right there. But then you're going to go back to another one right there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the season on the line, less than 20 seconds left to go, and you give it to your guy. He clears out, and he hits a super clutch 3 to basically force overtime. Then Bennedict Mathurin, and he wants to be called Benedict, is, I'm going to cuss, the fucking man.
Right.
Like, he just is. Right. Like, he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year for a reason. He showed it tonight, and I know through points of the season he was kind of up and down a little bit. Still played at a high level, but, for Pac-12 Player of the Year, you'd like to see a little bit more consistency. Right. Tonight, he brought it and showed everybody a glimpse of why he should be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft.
Some dudes get it in big situations, some don't. Saul, I like bringing up your playing background. You know this better than anybody, though. When you're playing at any formal level, whether that's high school, whether that's college, wherever it is, you're either born with that or you're not. Some people say they want it. Some people say they want it, but they really don't want it. Bennedict Mathurin, throughout that entire overtime, and to get into overtime, wanted that. Those shots were all taken with confidence, and it was something, too, that, people ask about closers and whatnot. Who's the closer? You saw the closer right out here.
No, there's no. I mean, you and I would like want to scream when Ben wasn't getting the ball in clutch moments. When the clock was winding down, you're like, what are we doing? Even at the end of the game, when there was a key point there, he handed it off to Dalen Terry, and I was like, no, give it back to him. You know what I mean? Like, And then, of course, he shoots the fadeaway three, and then Koloko tip slam, game over.
I want to give a big shout out to Tommy Lloyd, and we're going to, obviously, there's a lot of shout outs, but you see really what coaches are about when a season is on the line, when it's win or go home. Saul, you and I were about 15 feet away from him. He never changed his demeanor from the regular season.
Nope.
He didn't start calling a bunch of timeouts. He didn't start berating his players. He made one critical decision, and it was the right decision. Azuolas Tubelis, and we'll get to him later, was just, for whatever reason, not in the game today. He just wasn't. You know what? He's a kid. I mean, he's a young guy. Things like that happen. But when Arizona came out in the second half, after that terrible first half from Tubelis, he gave him a couple minutes, and then with the one exception, he was out, and he was either going with Pelle Larson, he was going with Umar Ballo. A lot of coaches aren't going to do that. A lot of coaches are going to stay by the book. He went with what he felt right there, and quite frankly, it was the right decision.
It was a million% the right decision. Tubelis was not very good tonight. He struggled. Being firm with the ball. And we talked about that the other day. We said, okay, you can get away with that when you're playing Wright State,
right? But
you cannot get away with that with a TCU team that was just pounding the offensive glass. I think at one point they had 19 offensive rebounds. Right. They were a problem all night long, but. Again, Tommy Lloyd made great adjustments throughout the game, and I thought going with the two big lineup with at times Kerr Kriisa and then Pelle Larson and Benn with Dalen and Koloko, I thought that was a really, really good lineup. And then you swap it out, Ballo for Kriisa. I thought that five right there was the best five of the night, especially defensively.
Yeah, and what's so unique about this team, and we talk about that vaunted run of death, what generally happens, though, is Arizona plays down to their competition, and then at about about 10 minutes left in the game, you go on that run and you never look back. This run happened much, much later and in a different fashion because Arizona at one point was up 9 points. I believe it was 76-68, if I'm not wrong, 76 to 67. Mm-hmm. They go on a 13-0 run, TCU, and they're like, oh, gosh, okay. Arizona does just enough to get it into overtime, and then in overtime, the cream rose to the top right there. And, again, that was Ben Mathurin right there. This was if this team goes on to the Final Four or whatever they do, this was a legendary performance that we will remember for the end of the season.
Every team in the tournament, through the history of the tournament, has always had a close call.
Right.
This was Arizona's close call.
Right.
They avoided disaster, because I think a lot of fans would have felt like this was a lost season had they not got to the Sweet 16.
Right.
But they didn't. They got through, and it's the magic. It's the magic, and I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to give a shout-out to my guy, Aaron Steinberg, who talked to the 5-year-old girl who caught Kerr Kriisa's croc in Vegas.
Okay.
She brought it here to San Diego. Magic.
Right.
That's the lucky charm. You got to bring that croc to San Antonio next, whoever the 5-year-old little girl is.
All right, and let me run this by you, too. Well, first of all, one thing, run by the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. You throw down $5 on a game, and you get $200 in free plays if you're a new customer. Give you an example. I told you about this before. If you wanted to back the A, all you had to do was put down the $5, and you would have got $200 in free plays. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions do apply. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 and over. Again, DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Get in there right now if you haven't already. Get yourself some money. Okay, if I were to tell you before the game that, oh, yeah, by the way, Azuolas Tubelis is going to play, but he's going to have maybe his worst game of the season. And, oh, yeah, by the way, TCU is going to finish the game with, I just want to make sure that I'm looking at this right here. Oh, yeah, 20 offensive rebounds. And Arizona was still going to find a way to win. And Kerr Kriisa, by the way, in a valiant effort, was still went 1 of 10. You're going to say, Mike, you're in a lot of problems right there.
If you told me Kerr Kriisa was going to play in this game, I'd have been like, you're high and out of your mind.
Right.
Like, I definitely did not think that was going to happen, but he did. And he gave this team a jolt as soon as he came in.
Right.
They were a little flat to start the game. He came in, they got a little bit of a run, tied the game back up, and then there was competitive for the rest of the game, which was fantastic. I loved every little bit of it. Yeah, everything that the Wildcats did tonight. If you'd have told me all that stuff before the game, but then told me Koloko and Ben Mathurin were going to combine for pretty much 60 points, I'd have been like, yeah, that's enough of the difference that should propel you to a win.
Right.
And it was just barely by the skin of their teeth enough to get the win.
Now, one thing I do want to say, too, is this –
this was a step up in competition. You and I watched it. This TCU,
Texas Tech.
Yeah. TCU. Yeah. TCU they're not a Final Four team, but this is a good basketball team that they beat out there.
TCU, this is one of those games one of those teams where you could have seen in some forms of the bracket where they could have snuck their way to an Elite Eight, right?
Right.
Because they are good. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas Tech. Very well
Jamie
coached.
Dixon's lucky he doesn't get 5 technicals per game.
Oh, my gosh, yes. But, allegedly,
right.
We were told that the coaches will not get technicals.
Right, for sure.
I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, it just doesn't matter, man. Right. At the end of the day, we're moving on to the Final Four. Right. It's fucking exciting. Everybody's been waiting for this for 5 years, and I'm just so happy for all the Wildcats out there who have been repping the red and blue, and it's gotten a little dicey there for a couple of years.
No doubt.
Didn't know if this was ever going to come back again for a while, and here we are.
But just watching the character, though, and I keep going back to this, watching the character of this team right there, where it was essentially down to a 7-man rotation right there between Justin Kier, Umar Ballo, Kerr Kriisa, and Pelle Larson. It was kind of the musical chairs right there. But after a while, Tommy Lloyd's just bringing them in and out. There's no sour faces when anybody's coming out. There's really none of that out there. This really is a team that all the pieces that fit. And at the end of the day, and again, I think we all knew this, but Ben Mathurin there's very few players in college basketball that can take over a game like that who are perimeter players. I mean, there's guys that can get to the rim and bully you. There's very few that when you're down 3, get out of my way, 1-4 low, and let me go to work. Yeah. And that's exactly what he did. If I'm an NBA team right now, I'm already high on him. But this game I saw right now showed me even more about Ben Mathurin.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's got a killer instinct in him. Like, he's that dude. He really is. Out of all the players that we saw this weekend, he was that dude all the way through and through. Back the A, baby.
Jay Hickey just messaged, back the A, baby.
There we go, back the A. I mean, that's what's special about this team. And honestly, that's what's special about this program right now. The entire athletic program supporting each other. Adia Barnes all over Twitter just going crazy about this game. Everybody's supporting each other, and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, especially after seeing what has happened over the last half a decade. Right. So it's great to see. Also, let's talk about Kerr Kriisa, because Kerr Kriisa I didn't think he was going to play, and you could see from time to time, especially defensively, he was a little bit of a liability out there. I didn't think TCU exposed him enough. Right. They should have isolated him and did more one-on-one to get their shots, but at the end of the day, Kerr Kriisa held enough and did enough to be a factor out there, especially energy-wise. And that's what Kerr Kriisa brings to this team. The energy, the enthusiasm, fantastic job by him tonight.
And did you notice, too, Tommy Lloyd, always, like we talked about, always looks like he's got a little bit of something, cooking upstairs. Kerr Kriisa's shot wasn't there. Nope. You could tell that. But you know what? He was not coming out of that game. And he makes the one big shot. He takes 2 shots there in the corner. But you know what? Tommy Lloyd's thinking bigger picture right there. Tommy Lloyd's saying, all right, you know what? He might not make those shots, but I'm going to need him to make those shots next week or whenever the time may be. So Kerr Kriisa, this was really, you wish that he could have had the 15 points or whatever, but just the fact that he was out there, just the fact that his spunk and his spontaneity was something, this was really something to behold.
I told you today, TCU is a great prep for if they have to play Houston, because Houston's much the same. They're not the best shooters in the world. They'll attack the glass. They're the 8th best offensive rebounding team in the country. And I think TCU was 13th. Somebody had said that in the chat. Fantastic stat, by the way. And so this is a great prep for next week as you get ready, as the Wildcats are going to play Thursday in San Antonio.
All right, I'll give you an idea. A lot of Arizona fans are kind of scarred, even from the Lute Olson era, because you would have so many first-round exits. You were known as, okay, you're going to run through the regular season, you're going to first-round exit. Apologize to nobody for this performance right here. All that matters is that you win and you go on. In 97, every single game was a 2 or 3 point victory.
You mentioned it earlier. Bennedict, Mathurin, and Koloko, players of the game. I think we have this. I think we have the graphic now for Bennedict, Mathurin. Let's go. Let's see if Jacob's going to pull it up or if he's going to wait for us to pull it up. I don't know what's going on. There it is. Oh. Bennedict, Mathurin. Look at that beautiful little graphic right there. And then, not to mention, we also have Christian Koloko, who was also just as dominant. 12 out of 13 field goals tonight.
These are NBA players. This is what NBA players look like. I get people all the time that ask me, do you think so-and-so is an NBA player? Do you think? No. If you're asking me if I think they are, they're probably not. What you saw out there today are NBA players. Now, again, there's different levels of them, obviously. But Koloko, let's go back to that first half there a little bit. Christian Koloko was absolutely fantastic because you know about his shot blocking. You know about his rebounding. Christian Koloko, though, was the guy who was able to turn the corner, finish around the basket, no problems with his hands, all of that. It was just something that it was a new level to his game. As high as he's taken this game, it was a new level to his game, Saul.
I mean, you and I both. It was one move particularly that caught us both off guard. It was the back down, and then he just kind of spun it behind him. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's a new one." You know what I mean? Like, and Christian felt comfortable. He's feeling so much more comfortable on the offensive side. He's not second guessing it. When he's got a mismatch, he's going to take you. He's not double second guessing it, which is great. And the team is trusting him down low. Right. We didn't see as much high-low because Eddie Lampkin is a longer guy. It's kind of hard to execute the high-low when you have somebody that's almost as tall as you. So they just posted him up. Right. And he abused whoever he was posting up time after time after time again.
Okay, now let's get to a bunch of the comments here because that's what makes this unique is we want to get to you. All right. Now, Ricky Garrett, a lot of people are talking about the refs. I will say this was a curiously officiated game right here. I was told by somebody that would know that we weren't really looking to give technicals to people during this game, and that was certainly shown by Eddie Lampkin's dunk where he's doing chin-ups and whatnot.
The ultimate warrior out there.
You had the three-pointer over there on the side where I can't remember who it was, but kicks out his foot, takes the three.
Yeah, Miles, right. Mike Miles.
Arizona certainly wasn't on the benefiting side of this, but you know what? That's also the NCAA tournament here. So again, you're going to have things like this.
Well, I mean, and also, like, let's be honest. Dalen Terry, he tried to cut off the half court from Mike Miles. Luckily, he didn't get the call, and then they almost won the game at the buzzer because of that. Like, it felt like it did go both ways. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the refs are going to make bad calls. They're going to make good calls, and that's just human nature. As long as they're not super egregious to where they affect the outcome of the game, like today when Illinois got a technical for basically just dunking
for protecting yourself on the rim.
Ridiculous.
Okay, refs were. I'm not going to go that far. Okay, now we're talking about. Let's see. If Ben Stock wasn't high already, he's guaranteed lottery. He's already a lottery pick. Yeah. That's one of those things. Ben Mathurin. He's one of those guys, too, when they, start poking and prodding and they find out, they see him up close and everything he can do. I mean, you're watching the last few games of Bennedict Mathurin's career, and this is certainly a way that you want to go out right there. Now, looking around at some of these other stats right here, and, I want to give another shout-out to Dalen Terry right here. Again, you look at the stat line, only 5 points, had a bunch of fouls, but you know what? He got the 4 rebounds. He just seems to always be in the right place at the right time, and again, that three right there that cut it from 67-70 to 70-70 was kind of the epitome of what he's been this season. He's always kind of the third or fourth option, but when you need something, Dalen generally shows up.
Absolutely. These stats really just don't tell you the game at all.
No,
they really don't, because if you look stat-wise across the board, they got out-rebounded. They had more turnovers. It looks like Arizona should have lost this game, but they didn't. And the reason why they didn't is because they got 2 dudes. Two dudes that absolutely balled out today. Everybody else sprinkled in a little contribution here and there. Defensively, they did just enough to affect the game. But next week, they'll have to improve, and they'll have to step it up a notch, especially on the offensive rebounding or defensive rebounding and keeping Houston off the offensive boards because they attacked the glass just as hard as TCU.
Yeah, and let's talk about Houston. This, like you said, Saul, this was a very, very good tune-up, I think, for lack of a better term, for what you're going to see against Houston. Because Houston's better than TCU. They were coached by a guy, Kelvin Sampson. You were in the Final Four last year. Some of that roster is back. If anybody watched any of that game, this is a team that likes to pressure. This is a team that likes to get up in your grill. And when you pressure and you get up in your grill, that causes a lot of problems for teams, especially teams that are light on ball handling right now, like Arizona is.
Absolutely. And on top of that, we're going to San Antonio, which is only 2 hours away from Houston. So Wildcats, if you're going to show up, you better show up. It's not a cheap flight. It's not a cheap trip. I'm telling you that right now. But I'm sure Wildcat Nation is going to show up and show out because I know Houston fans are going to make that little trip up to the Alamo for sure.
And this is what I always tell people like this too. And again, everybody's different financially. Totally get that. But you might have thought that I was heading into a DraftKings Sportsbook app. I'm not. But the one thing, though, that if you can and you can make it happen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime type opportunity right here. Now, again, Arizona basketball is always going to be in the mix, but this is a team that can absolutely cut down the nets. And even if it's for one game, even if it's for a weekend, if you could make that one happen, it's a magical experience. It really is. Just to be able to say, you know what, I was with them when they did so-and-so or they did so-and-so. So, again, if you can make that work logistically, then I really can't tell you enough right there.
Absolutely. I mean, the last time they got to the Elite Eight was actually it was in LA in 2016. And I'm sorry, 2015. You're right, 2015. And it's been 7 years since then.
Right.
You know, you got to, if you have the opportunity to get there. Go out. It's the Alamo Dome, so there should be more tickets available. A bigger venue. It's just going to be fun. Overall, it's going to be a fun experience. If you have the opportunity, go out there. I do also want to mention Pelle Larson tonight. Mm-hmm. Pelle Larson might not have seemed like he was doing too much out there, but he was stable. Mm-hmm. He was stable out there, especially in replacing Tubelis off the bench, who was not as stable with the ball, not as firm with the ball, a little loosey-goosey.
Yes, very much so.
Pelle Larson was pretty solid tonight, and defensively, one of the better Wildcats out there on the defensive end, so I wanted to give him a shout-out.
And you know what? His numbers kind of indicate that, to be honest with you, Saul, right there. You're looking at it. You might not say that's a ton. 6 points, 6 rebounds, playing solid defense as usual, had an assist, had a couple steals in there. When Pelle Larson is on the court, and this is such a difference from what it was earlier in the year, you just feel comfortable. There's a little bit of a soothing influence when Pelle Larson is on the court, mainly because he's not going to do dumb things. He's going to do what the coach tells him. And let's be honest here. Tommy Lloyd, there's been a couple things that people have questioned Tommy Lloyd. I was one of those people. And you know what? There's a reason that I'm sitting here with a microphone and Tommy Lloyd is making the money he is, doing what he is. Yep. He said, Pelle will get there. Pelle will get there. He was asked this at every single basketball conference. Coach, how much longer can you continue to play Pelle? And it was never a question for him. Pelle's going to get there. Yeah. And this is exactly what it is. This is the faith that he has in his players. You know, the other thing, too, that I love, and I got to give the big homie right here a little shout-out, too. When Ben Mathurin made that three at the top, I said, call timeout. I don't like, and you said, Mike, let him go. Let him go. Tommy Lloyd obviously was listening to Saul Bookman, not listening to Mike Luke, because he let him go, and that was the biggest shot of the season that he unleashed right there.
The season saver.
Right.
Absolutely, the season saver. Also, Dalen Terry had quite the stat line: 5 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 4 rebounds. Right. Just all over the board, solid from top to bottom. Almost, just within a split second of sending the Wildcats to the Sweet 16 5 minutes earlier, which would have just brought down the house. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The Wildcats moving on.
Ryan Hansen earlier this week made a great point on here in that he said, you got to stop calling him a glue guy. And he wasn't just talking to me, he was talking to everybody. He said, because glue guy indicates somebody that, is a little bit limited in what they can do. He says, this guy's a star. He said you might not look at him and see the Ben Mathurin type stat line. You might not look at him and see the Christian Koloko stat line, but you are looking at a guy. How many guys, like you just read right there, how many guys can get you 5 steals? How many guys can get you 5? He is uniquely qualified to do a lot of different things out there that not many people can do.
He's like Jason Terry minus the offense. Let's be honest.
Right.
Especially when you think about Jason Terry's first couple seasons with the Wildcats when he was coming off the bench. Dalen Terry is that guy as well.
Right.
Probably a better comparison is probably more like Andre Iguodala. Can do a little bit of everything. Right. And yes, he is the glue guy because that's what he's needed to do on this team. But should they move forward next year and he comes back, then more is going to be expected of him. Right. More scoring is going to be expected. A higher offensive output all around. And he's the type of player that I truly believe will be able to convert and come through in that.
And he's another guy, too. He's going to play in the NBA. All right, Tina, I was jumping up and down on my couch. almost hit my head on the ceiling fan.
Man, that's one hell of a vertical.
I was going to say, and Tina obviously knows athleticism when she doesn't see it because she didn't believe that I was a personal trainer earlier in the season. Tina, you were exactly right about that. But one thing that I can tell you about, though, again, is the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. Throw down $5 on tournament games. You get $200 in free plays if you're a new customer. Again, if you're a new customer, 21 and up, Arizona only, gambling issue 1-800-NEXT-STEP. I'll give you a perfect example, Saul. We were talking about it. It was my DraftKings pick of the week. Now, it was a little bit closer than we thought, but Arizona, back the A in this game right here. Could have $200 in free plays if you're a new customer. That simple, that easy.
I'll give you a shout out. I'll give a shout out to Espo. Espo last week said he was going to take whoever the Wildcats were playing plus the points.
Okay.
And so basically he thought Arizona was going to win, but he didn't think that they were going to be able to cover. They didn't cover, so good. It was a 9.5-point spread. Good shout out to Espo.
Yeah, no, dude, I'll give a big shout out to Espo right there. Okay, now, Tina, put me in. You know what? I'm not going to go that far, but I do trust that you have an incredibly good vertical. All right, I'm glad Kriisa's back. And yes, and when you deal with high ankle sprains and ones that when Justin Kokoski, who's one of the best trainers in the business, is putting Kerr out there, he's saying, you know what? You just got to play through it. You got to just try to get better. It's similar to what they did with Azuolas Tubelis, and I think the hope is, and again, anybody that's had a high ankle sprain, he's not going to be 100%. That's not going to happen. But what you hope is get 5 to 7% better, get 8% better, 10% better. Just keep pushing that so you can be a little bit closer to the guy that you will. The one thing that I do think is really going to help him out, though, is his shooting and his ability to be able to get shots right there. You could tell that he probably had been shooting a lot of shots. Get this game in your system. I think you're going to see a different Kerr Kriisa. Not a more explosive, perhaps, but I think a guy that's making those set shots.
Oh yeah, I think 1,000,000% he'll hit those shots next week. Also, I'm not gonna bag on Justin Kier. I thought he played very well tonight too. I was absolutely fine with Justin Kier. If anything, Justin Kier mixed it up a little bit because there was a point in the end of the game where TCU gave Kerr Kriisa the lane, and Kerr was like, I don't got that kind of lift right now with my legs, so he backed out. But Justin Kier was hitting those back doors. He was cutting to the basket, hitting those layups. You need that. You need both of that right now, especially with Kerr not being able to explode to the hoop.
All right, I'm going to make fun of Ken Pom for a second. Ken Pom does some really good stuff. Obviously, he's another guy that's smarter than me. I don't care if Ken Pom says that Arizona's an underdog against Houston. You want to know why? Because the DraftKings Sportsbook app, I'm guessing, is going to say that Arizona's a favorite, and I'm always going to take the DraftKings Sportsbook app over Ken Pom.
This guy in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, I love you, DraftKings, but oh my God, if I have to hear it 45 times.
Oh, you're going to hear it.
I've heard it. I heard it 60 times in this game alone.
We've got to drive back for 6 hours, too, where Saul's going to be hearing more about it.
Well, as long as it keeps me awake, I'll be okay.
That's all you really need. But look at these stats. Here's the other thing, too, that amazes me about this game right here, in that Arizona is 5 of 27 from 3, and I still can't get over this. You gave up 20 offensive rebounds to a team that's significantly smaller. This is the perfect game for a number of different ways because you win, but Saul, you got a lot of learning experiences that you can certainly take from this right here.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an ugly win.
Right.
It all feels great to me.
This is a win you worry about if this is NAU and it's the 4th game of the season. This is not a win. You don't apologize. You're marching on to the Sweet 16. All right, now.
Survive in advance.
Now, let's look ahead a little bit here. We got 2 different things. And Tom Brokaw, great name, by the way. Tom Brokaw, appreciate you there, dude. What do you think about Tubelis? Listen. Tubelis is a fantastic basketball player. We all know that. We've seen him at his best. But there's a lot of times that whatever it is, whether it's just the way that he appears, his stature, his body language, that just leaves something to be desired. And this was
real quick. Can we just say how cute the ASU kids are that have never been to the tournament? Right. They don't even know what the tournament's all about. They're over here taking pictures right next to this March Madness logo because they know it's the only time they'll ever come back.
And it was funny too. I was looking at him like, why are ASU kids here, man?
Because they don't have teams to cover in the tournament.
It shows you the pull that Arizona has in the Valley
there. That's right.
And that's why Go PHNX is the place that you want to go for.
We've already converted Michaela Perkins. She said she's on the bandwagon. She is now back in the A.
And you know what? She was saying back the A, and she was saying in Vegas, and Mac did a fantastic job. But she was saying, she's like, I'm so nervous right now. I'm like, I knew they taught you something well right there. So again, this is the big dog right here. So he's the head. He's the one that makes everything happen here. we got a really good following here at AZ Wildcats podcast. But Saul, give the people out there a little bit of opportunity. What you're doing with the Suns, what you're doing with the Cardinals, because you've got a lot of really good stuff going on.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. We got Johnny Venerable doing some killer content over with Cardinals. Suns has obviously been awesome this year. So Espo and Lindsay and Gerald do a great job with them. And then obviously our other sports, D-backs is in full swing. Coyotes has been killing it. They are at the trade deadline right now. ASU is trying to figure out what to cover because they don't have anything else to cover, but they still do a very good job.
They got some good people.
We got Phoenix Rising, and then we have two huge announcements coming up next week. Starting tomorrow, I believe, we're going to announce something else Cardinals related, and then we're also announcing another podcast that we're about to launch, and I'm going to give you a hint. It is all about women. Right. There you go.
This is the wave of the future. We're hop on in here. All right, now let's look ahead to next weekend here, Saul.
Yes.
So we got Houston, and again, I don't care what Ken Palm says. Arizona, if they play their game, and again, I know that sounds cliche, but Arizona is a better basketball team than Houston. It's more to me when you're playing teams that are not as good as you, what you do in that game. A couple things. Arizona cannot turn the ball over in this, and I know that you got a hobbled Kerr Kriisa. You got a Justin Kier in there, but you know what? Your talent is still good enough, whether it's Bennedict Mathurin bringing it up, Jalen Terry. You should not succumb to that kind of pressure with the kind of talent that you do already have.
No. Yeah, listen, Arizona's seasoned at this point.
Right.
They're seasoned. They're ready to go. This is a great test. Listen, for a younger team that has never been to the tournament, this was a fantastic experience to go through the first game and a little bit of a wave that they felt, and then this second game was as intense as you could feel in an arena. Half the fans were going against U of A, the other half were U of A. And it was a great environment. It was electric from top to bottom. It was just, and U of A fans, I know Tommy Lloyd called them out the other day. They showed up. They showed out. They were loud. They were proud. They were supporting this team all the way to the very end, and they got rewarded for it.
Oh, yeah, by the way, fans out there, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example. And TCU fans, you're probably not listening because you're probably driving home because your team lost and you're not going to be playing again the rest of the season. But one thing, a little bit of advice, wait until the team loses to start chanting with the overrated chants, because the only thing you can do is something bad for the team that you're playing against. And that's exactly what happened to you. You started the overrated chants with 10 minutes left. And by the way, Ben Mathurin, not overrated. You're probably not viewing Ben Mathurin as overrated. So wait till the game's over.
I haven't screamed like that, and I typically when I'm in the press box, I do not scream. You don't cheer. You're not supposed to. When that dunk happened, and I don't even care if it was.
Are you allowed to grab shoulder though?
Yes. I think I punched Mike in the thigh about 45 times tonight. When that dunk happened, it was insane. And I verbally screamed a little bit because I couldn't control it. It was just so ridiculously awesome. He absolutely baptized. And I wish I was in the postgame presser right now because I would have asked Bennedict Mathurin if he went to church with Lapkin today, because if he did, he probably baptized him.
All right, you know what? Fendi bands, I'm going to make fun of you for a second because you keep throwing stuff in here. I ignored you the first couple times. I'm not going to ignore you this time. But you know what? Arizona ain't ready for Houston. You know what? You can keep saying that all you want. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Not only that, and not that Arizona looks ahead or anything, but just briefly before we sign off here, Saul, let's talk a little bit about Villanova. You and I talked quite a bit about Villanova. Villanova, first of all, in my opinion, Jay Wright is the best coach in the country. I think he is absolutely fantastic. Multiple championships, lots of Final Fours. This is not your vintage Jay Wright team. This is a team that's going to be in the Elite Eight because of Jay Wright. This is not a team that can win it, though, because at the end of the day, Jay Wright still doesn't play basketball.
Well, I think the one team that might be their kryptonite is Arizona because of the length, because of the height down low.
Right.
The inability for Villanova to be able to expose their physicality down low is going to be a problem when they play Arizona. So the matchup, I love the matchup with Villanova. I really do. And with Houston's going to be a problem. Right. They're going to be a problem because they're a little bit longer, they're lengthier, and they get up after it. They get into you. Kelvin Sampson coached teams, and the last time I believe we played a Kelvin Sampson coached team was when we lost to Eduardo Nahara and the Oklahoma Sooners back in '98, I believe, or '99. So he's got his team ready to go. They're playing very well. They looked very good against Illinois today. It's going to be a banger. It's probably going to be much like today's game.
Tina, you were the best, but guess what? You're wrong on this one. We got up to 181. So let's keep trying to push that. As always, Tina, if we could have Tina's whole household in there, would be up to about 190, according to Tina. So we certainly do appreciate you there. Okay, now coaching in the tournament is a different type of coach. I want to talk about this again. We talked about this earlier, and I'm going to bring it up again because of just how unique it is. And it's also just so much of a juxtapose as to what we viewed over the last 12 years. This team, I do not think, under the previous coaching staff, is responding the way they did in this game. Because here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a ton of timeouts. There's going to be a ton of screaming. There's going to be a ton of freezing up. Tommy Lloyd, you got this. I'm going to listen to Saul. I'm going to listen to my instincts. Benn, do your thing right there. That just isn't happening in the previous administration.
No. A lot of telling players what to do all the time. It basically was like Sean Miller was playing a video game out there trying to control everything, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas Tommy Lloyd's very much like, hey, we do all our coaching in practice, and we'll give you tips in the game, but go out there and play.
Right.
Go out there and play. Trust what we've taught you. Trust the process. And it sounds cliche, but it's very, very true. And the good coaches in the country will let you just play. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. But as long as you can learn from the mistakes and don't make the same mistake twice, then you can improve and move on, and that's what Arizona does.
Arizona is in an absolutely great position right now because they control their own destiny right now. They're going to, okay, what is the difference? Alita and Andy Taylor. Andy, if I used to work with you at the radio and that's that same Andy, how you doing, my man? What is different from Lloyd's coaching as opposed to Miller's? Well, first and foremost, Lloyd came in, and I use this quote all the time because I think it sums up Lloyd better than anything. This is his first press conference of the year, and he said a couple things that really stuck out to me. First and foremost, he said the Christian Koloko we thought could be the defensive player of the year in the conference. Keep in mind, Christian Koloko played like 16 minutes a game last year. So everybody's kind of, okay, is it one of these guys? Then the other thing, when he was asked about his style of play, he said, we're going to run. And then he said, you hear coaches say that all the time because it's a way to recruit. I'm not saying it because it's a way to recruit. It's because it's a way to win.
Yeah.
And you saw that out there. Sean Miller certainly wasn't that. But again, and then I'll let Saul take it from there. Just watch how the players respond. Even Azuolas Tubelis playing the worst game of the season. Did you even once see Tommy Lloyd berate him? Because here's what Tommy Lloyd is saying. Okay, my guy's struggling right now. Let's get him off to the side. We'll talk with him in the locker room. We'll get him all straightened out. He's cognizant of things like that. And I think that matters with 19, 20-year-old kids.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing is when you sit down with Tommy Lloyd, you're not playing very, very good, right? And in a game like this, you have to be at your peak level. And he just didn't have it. He really didn't have it this whole weekend.
Right.
And that's probably an area of concern for Tommy Lloyd. They probably talked about it. And Tommy probably told him before the game, like, hey, we need you. And if I don't get what I need out of you, then I have to go to another option that can give me more results. And that's what he did tonight. And you know what? Tubelis cheering on his teammates from the sideline, standing up every time a player had to come off, and he shook his hand like he was still supporting his team. That's what good teammates do. I'm sure he's going to learn from this. He'll be better next weekend. He's going to have to be better if Arizona wants to advance to the Final Four, especially against a team like Houston.
Like my mom always told me growing up, tough love is still love nonetheless.
Yes.
Because you know what? There's a reason behind it. Azuolas Tubelis will be right back out there. I'm sure they'll work on it. But we got a special post-game show coming up tomorrow as well. Arizona women's basketball team back in action at McHale against North Carolina, 7 o'clock tip. So we'll be on about 9:05, 9:10, somewhere in there. And again, back on the road Thursday. We'll be coming to you live. I'm going to be staying back in Tucson for this one. I apologize. Bruno says hi, but Saul's going to be there. So we got the same group, and we'll just keep this one rolling as long as we can. But again, can't thank you all enough. Previous high was 166. We got up to 181 today. You are all the best. And again, I'm just flattered to be here. I'm glad that, because again, nobody knows more than anybody out here. We're all fans having a good time.
Real quick before we sign off, Mike is going to stay home and take care of his dog. And I can't tell you how much that really means. Today, Michaela Perkins and Craig Morgan did something really, really cool for the Maricopa County Rescue and got a dog, rescued. And it was fantastic. And he was an older dog. And I know you really care about your dog. And you've gotten him treatment for some things that were going on with him to extend his life and give him quality of life. And this man cares about his dog so damn much that when he told me, hey, I'm thinking I might not be able to make it to San Antonio, I was like, dude, that's fucking beautiful, man. Like, do that shit, and we'll take care of it on the road in San Antonio, and hopefully my man will be able to join us back in New Orleans for the Final Four.
I've already made plans for that. I will be with you, but the U of A, you got to make this one happen so I can go on that followed-up road trip.
Do it for Bruno. Do it for U of A. Let's go.
Right there. So, again, John, I appreciate all of you guys, as always. Saul Bookman, the main man in here, the coolest boss you're ever going to find. I am Mike Luke, and we will be back with you tomorrow. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app.